Hey all, so recently I've been on a serious Benchmade kick. Regardless of your opinions on Benchmade, it's really hard to argue that they make some very solid knives. And if I'm being completely honest, with how many knives I handle and play around with every day, I really might have to place Benchmade in my #1 spot for favorite knife company overall. There are a few that come in very, very close and may temporarily replace them on any given day depending on my mood, but Benchmade will probably be my forever go-to when I need a knife that can be used, abused, and performs at least above average, if not exceptionally well. So I want to share my current favorite 5 Benchmade knives in 2022, and spoiler alert, this list is not going to include super popular and obvious models like the 940 or the BUGOUT or the Mini-Griptilian. Those are obviously great knives that could be on a top 5 list, just they could make a top list on their own. But I want to include stuff that's not as popular or maybe not as obvious and still very well loved. All right, let's get this started. Let's get this stuff out of the way. By the way, most orders on our website come with this super cool PVC patch. You can put it on your range bag, you can give it to a friend, or if you're not the type of guy that uses the incognito tab, you can just throw it away. Starting the list at number 5 is the BAILOUT, specifically the 537 GY-1. I was thrilled the first time I saw this knife because of a few reasons. Aluminum construction, which I am super partial to. I love the feeling of aluminum, the weight. I like that it's cold when you pick it up. I mean, it's a strong material. The deep green color anodizing is also kind of mesmerizing, especially with the texture and light reflections. You know exactly what I mean if you have one of these. The blade is also made from CPM M4 blade steel, which is a very special steel that blends hardness and toughness. And if you know anything about blade steels, it's not common for those two properties to exist in the same steel. Harder steel that holds an edge for longer is generally more brittle, but not so much with M4 steel. The trade-off is corrosion resistance here, but because of the blade coating, it's not a huge concern. While Tanto blades sometimes sway me away, I like the very narrow bevel here towards the tip, and the two edges converge in a way I imagine would not be terrible to sharpen. And the factory edge, to no surprise, is extremely sharp. The action is fast, breaks in really nicely. Not very much lock stick at all, which some Benchmade suffer a bit from, some more, some less, but the BAILOUTs I've handled don't have any issues releasing the axis lock. Not sure why. And I forgot to mention that this knife is really thin and really light, which to be honest is probably the biggest appeal for this to most people. It's a huge selling point of this knife. We have these available at the time of filming right up there at knifehub.com. I'd love if you took a quick look at our site, and I'll also put links in the description of this video for you. This knife sells for $234, which I think is also not a terrible price, even considering the premium cost on a lot of Benchmades. All right, at number 4, I have to include a fixed blade, but not just because I have to be all-inclusive or anything like that, but because it's actually an amazing knife. There's a caveat, however, I will address at the end of this part regarding the sheath. It is a Hidden Canyon Hunter, specifically the latest of the 2 models with the Benchmade Select Edge S90V steel. I love the look, I love the color, and the feel of this knife. It is truly excellent for field use or even an everyday carry fixed blade. Even with my chunky hands, this thing fits tight in my grip. I can really control it even if my hands aren't exactly clean and dry because the blade spine has aggressive jimping in 2 locations. If you need to choke up on the blade, like this, or if you need to just sit back a little, you can hold it how you really want. The deep belly on this blade, CPM S90V steel, again, makes it a dream to use in the field. And this thing is sharp and it stays sharp. If you're a hunter and need to field dress, the size and sharpness on this knife is invaluable. The stonewash finish will hide wear pretty nice, and S90V is also not too bad for corrosion resistance. This knife is also really light at 3.11 ounces, which isn't surprising considering its size, but it will not weigh you down if you carry it all the time. Okay, so regarding the caveat I mentioned earlier, there are a decent amount of complaints about this sheath. I'll keep it brief, but I want to mention it for the sake of being as honest as I can because a fixed blade, a sheath is a big part of that when you buy it, obviously. So I haven't personally carried it, but I can attest that some of the claims are valid. The sheath has a lot of flex, and it doesn't hold the knife as securely as a lot of people prefer. You can buy aftermarket sheaths that are a big improvement on this one. Even if the blade edge, by the way, while you are sheathing this knife, barely contacts this Bolter-on plastic. It locks into it, and you have to pull it out and just pay more attention the next time. In short time, I mean, you'll literally destroy this thing with the blade edge if you're not careful, really careful every time you sheath. You'll just chop it into pieces. It'll be ruined. With how good this knife is, this is a minor concern of mine. I think it's no problem if you just take a little extra time when you sheath it and when you retrieve it. If you're not in a big hurry, this is probably just fine. And you know, everyone, your mileage may vary. It's always a good idea to decide for yourself if anything's a problem before you make any decisions. All right, at number 3 is a newer release, and like everything popular in today's world, there are criticisms, and many of those criticisms I've noticed come from people that didn't actually buy the knife or use the knife. The Shootout really impressed me, and I made a review of it when we had some of them. They're gone. They sold out faster than anything I've seen in a year, though. And guess what? None of them were returned, so that says something too. The Shootout is insanely light. I mean, 2.8 ounces for an automatic OTF, thanks to full CF Elite construction, which is basically carbon fiber weaved into polymer. The blade is PVD-coated crewware steel, which is one of my favorite steels for being so well-rounded, and it's not a bear to sharpen either. The action and feel in hand were top-notch, really. The thing fired crazy hard and felt really clean. Some OTFs feel kind of muddy, but the Shootout did not. It was crispy, it was fast, it left a great impression on me and many other people. I hope to see some more of them sooner than later, and you can know when we get them back in stock by subscribing at the link in the description right now. Because, I mean, they're probably going to sell out faster than your significant other's attitude changes when they find out you bought another knife. If you want to see more about the Shootout, check out the review I made on it. It goes into more detail than I will go into here. It's a fantastic knife, and honestly, I think a staple OTF in the knife world right now. Okay, number 2. So, I kind of lied in the beginning of the video when I said I wasn't going to include something popular like the BUGOUT, because, surprise, here's a BUGOUT at number 2. But, it's not the regular BUGOUT. It is the aluminum 535 BK-4 with an amazing aesthetic. And I already said it once in the video, but I'm a softie for aluminum handles and scales. I also really like titanium, and so should you. Anyway, not only does this knife, in my opinion, look amazing, but it's a BUGOUT, so obviously it performs fantastically. It's still very light at 2.5 ounces compared to the Grivory BUGOUT at 1.8 ounces. The blade is also made from M390, which is a cool touch because it's not a super common blade steel for Benchmade, like S30V, for example. M390 is excellent, it holds an edge for quite a long time, and it's extremely corrosion resistant. I honestly am not sure what else to say about the BUGOUT that you guys don't already know, or even this BUGOUT specifically, but let's be honest. What kind of top 5 list would this be without one of the knives I mentioned in the beginning, like a BUGOUT, or a mini grip, or an Osborne, right? Anyway, the BUGOUT is my favorite of those 3, and this is my current favorite BUGOUT configuration. So there you have it. These are currently available on our site for $247 with free shipping. Check them out. These are awesome knives. You will love them as soon as you feel one. Finally at number 1, the part that makes me nervous because you never know how strongly people are going to disagree with you. Again, my lists are personal and not based on reviews or popularity or anything, though this knife is kind of popular. It is literally my favorite Benchmade knife, and one of my favorite knives of all time, the MINI-ADAMAS. Man, oh man, I just want to emphasize how much I freaking love this knife. I'm a sucker for looks, and the black with gray with this configuration is so sexy for this slightly tactical, everyday carry, super functional, awesome knife. The drop point blade with the little ramp is so nice looking, and that's not even considering how well the looks with that blend with function here. Out of every knife I have held in the store, none have felt as good in my hand as this knife, and I carry one of these regularly. The knife has texturing at 4 critical points of the grip, so the thing absolutely locks into place without being super aggressive, and it's contoured beautifully, so it's comfortable to hold too. The blade shape is ideal. It's made from CPM crewware steel, which, if you remember, I mentioned is one of my favorite knife steels. If you do sharpen your own knives, which I suggest everyone learns how to do, you may appreciate a steel that isn't so diamond hard that your arm is sore the next day from just touching it up. And this knife is seriously tough. It's not super thin and lightweight. I mean, it kind of is, but it's still perfect for EDC and more. I'd love to put one of these through a torture test because I bet it would absolutely slay almost anything that you can throw at it. It has a fairly thick liner with G10 scales and a fairly thick blade. Also a right or left hand configurable deep carry clip and well-designed thumb studs that are easy to operate. And I know that All Benchmades eventually break in to a point where they are very smooth, or in the case of this knife, smoother than anything else. I mean, it's like butter. The action is just amazing. One-handed operation, super buttery smooth. That blade just falls closed on its own weight. So nice. I love that in a knife. And absolutely no lock stick at all. Even some guys at the store that don't care for Benchmade or knives of this style admit that the MINI-ADAMAS is a really, really nice knife. And for what it's worth, I think the full-size Adamas is an absolute Goliath of a beastly knife. It's still awesome, but it's just a little much to carry every day. Not to mention the fact that it's a little bit terrifying if you were to pull it out in public, maybe upset your family members, but I don't care. I say you do you. The Mini, though, not so much. It is a perfect size. I mean, if this knife was even a 1/16 of an inch bigger in any direction, I think it would be a bad thing. A downgrade, yes. I mean, it's a perfect size, and it can withstand just about anything as well. This is available right now in black or flat dark earth for $212, and I think that price is really awesome for what you get here. I hope you guys liked the list. Like, subscribe, and share this video if you agree with any of my choices. Stay sharp, and thanks for watching, guys.